Welcome to Global Crossroads. The scientific alarm bells about climate change are ringing louder than ever, yet the world remains deeply divided on how to respond. It's a complex and contentious issue, intertwined with national interests, economic fears, and geopolitical power struggles. Today, we'll explore the urgent reality of climate change, analyze the political schism preventing unified action, and examine the profound consequences of continued inaction. The scientific consensus on climate change is unequivocal. Our planet is warming at an unprecedented rate, primarily due to human activities, particularly the burning of fossil fuels. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or NASA, confirms that global temperatures have risen significantly, with the most recent decade being the warmest on record. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, further states that atmospheric carbon dioxide levels are higher than at any point in at least 800,000 years, trapping heat and fundamentally altering our climate system. Experts from the Union of Concerned Scientists emphasize the urgency, warning that we are rapidly approaching critical thresholds, beyond which some impacts become irreversible. Projections for global temperature rise indicate we are on track to exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels in the coming years, potentially reaching 2 degrees Celsius or more by mid-century under current policies. The consequences of this rise are far-reaching, from more intense heat waves and altered precipitation patterns to rising sea levels and threats to biodiversity. Despite the scientific consensus, the political landscape surrounding climate action is profoundly fractured. Major nations often take sharply contrasting positions, driven by differing economic structures, national priorities, and political ideologies. The European Union, for example, continues to position itself as a global leader in climate action. Its Green Deal aims for climate neutrality by 2050, with ambitious targets for emissions reductions and significant investments in renewable energy. Countries like Germany and the Nordic nations have heavily subsidized wind and solar power, and are pushing for rapid transitions away from fossil fuels, as highlighted by analyses from the Atlantic Council. In contrast, the United States, under the current administration, has shifted its approach. As we discussed in our Big Beautiful Bill episode, policies enacted in July 2025 notably phase out many tax credits for electric vehicles and utility-scale wind and solar projects. This move, while aiming to boost traditional energy sectors and prioritize domestic production, signifies a departure from rapid decarbonization efforts, as confirmed by the Center for American Progress. The U.S. formally rejoined the Paris Agreement earlier in this administration, but its domestic policy emphasis indicates a more cautious or even regressive stance on certain climate initiatives. China, while a massive investor in renewable energy and the largest emitter of greenhouse gases, prioritizes economic growth and energy security. The Carnegie Endowment for International Peace notes that China's dual approach involves rapidly expanding both renewable capacity and coal-fired power to meet its vast energy demands, balancing climate commitments with development goals. Nations heavily reliant on fossil fuel exports or developing countries facing immediate poverty challenges often express concerns that aggressive climate targets could hinder their economic growth and development, leading to resistance to rapid change. At the heart of this global divide lie profound economic stakes and competing national interests. The transition to a low-carbon economy involves significant costs and fundamental shifts in industrial structures. Many nations remain heavily reliant on fossil fuels for energy production, exports, and jobs. Economies built around coal, oil, and natural gas face immense challenges in pivoting away from these industries without incurring significant economic disruption and job losses. The American Petroleum Institute, a major U.S. industry group, consistently argues for the continued role of traditional energy sources in meeting global demand and ensuring energy security. Concerns about economic competitiveness also drive national positions. Countries fear that stringent climate regulations could raise production costs, making their industries less competitive compared to nations with laxer rules. This tension often plays out in trade discussions, where carbon border adjustments or green subsidies become points of contention. Furthermore, powerful industries and lobbying groups exert considerable influence on policy and public opinion. In the U.S., fossil fuel companies, for instance, have significant lobbying power in Washington, advocating for policies that protect their investments and slow the transition to renewables, as documented by organizations like Open Secrets, which tracks money in U.S. politics. This influence can create formidable political barriers to ambitious climate action. The consequences of global inaction are not theoretical. They are manifesting with increasing frequency and severity, posing a truly global threat. The past year has seen a continuation of extreme weather events, breaking records worldwide. Heat waves have shattered temperature records across continents, leading to increased heat-related illnesses and deaths, as reported by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC. Prolonged droughts are exacerbating water shortages and devastating agricultural yields in regions from the American West to parts of Africa and Asia, impacting food security as we explored in our recent Global Hunger Crisis video. The National Climate Assessment, compiled by U.S. federal agencies, consistently highlights the increasing frequency and intensity of heavy precipitation events, leading to more severe flooding in coastal and inland areas. These impacts disproportionately affect vulnerable communities and developing countries, who often have the fewest resources to adapt and recover from climate disasters. The World Bank emphasizes that climate change is a poverty multiplier, pushing millions more into extreme poverty, exacerbating existing inequalities, and driving forced displacement and migration, creating new geopolitical stresses. Failing to act risks widespread human suffering, loss of life, and escalating humanitarian crises. Despite the deep divisions, there is a growing recognition that climate change is a borderless threat, demanding international cooperation and shared responsibility. The Paris Agreement, a landmark international accord, remains the primary framework for global climate action. It commits nearly all nations to set and achieve their own emissions reduction targets. However, achieving its ambitious goal of limiting global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius, and preferably to 1.5 degrees Celsius, faces significant challenges due to insufficient national commitments and varying levels of implementation. COP30, later this year in Brazil, will be a critical forum for assessing progress and pushing for stronger action. Despite political headwinds, momentum for climate action is building in many sectors. Innovative solutions are emerging rapidly, from advancements in battery storage and hydrogen power to nascent carbon capture technologies. The private sector, driven by investor demand and market opportunities, is increasingly investing in renewable energy and sustainable practices, often outpacing government mandates. Grassroots movements and youth activism continue to pressure leaders for more ambitious policies, demanding a more sustainable future. The geopolitical divide on climate is stark, but the scientific reality is undeniable. Navigating this complex challenge requires renewed diplomatic efforts, a willingness to bridge economic divides, and a shared vision for a sustainable and stable future. Our team at Global Crossroads pours extensive research and analysis into every video, aiming to bring you the most accurate and insightful understanding of these complex global forces. If you find this in-depth breakdown valuable and want to stay ahead in a rapidly changing world, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Your support makes this crucial work possible. The politics of climate change will continue to be a defining battle of our era. The global divide is real, but so are the consequences of inaction. Understanding these dynamics is essential for comprehending the future of our planet and the path forward. Subscribe to Global Crossroads and stay informed on the issues that truly matter.